Good evening, and welcome back to another installment of what I'm liking to call Red Wave USA. Something a little new I'm doing, I guess not so new now. This will be our third episode of this journey that I'm going on. And we do have more of the same topics to talk about today, but these topics seem to develop as the day goes on, as the weeks go on. And again, the government shutdown is still something that we're dealing with. This is day 6 of it. We're still dealing with this tit for tat kind of thing. And Trump's statement really stuck with me. He's kind of moving in silence in a sense. He's saying, you know what? I'm done taking the fall for everything. I'm gonna let the legislative branch figure this one out. You guys can duke it out and let the Dems take the blame, essentially. That's where he stands on that. But we have more to cover on the government shutdown, more developments every day, because it seems that's the main thing we're worried about right now, and understandable as we reach day 6. And the longer we go on, the worse it's going to get. And the longer we go on, the more it's going to trickle down to everyday life for Americans. Another topic we're going to be taking a deep dive into today kind of stems from what's going on in Portland, Oregon. But Trump is waiting on the courts right now. Courts are relentlessly blocking what should be his power to send the National Guard into these cities like Portland, Oregon, to remedy these situations, to remedy these riots and protests. I use the word riots as, in my eye, that's what they've developed into. We'll also get into a little bit, we're going to talk about kind of the balance between presidential power and state power. And how does that really stack up? Who has more power? We'll get into that into today's installment of Red Wave USA. I again thank you. If you are viewing once again, I thank you for your time. And I'll be sure that to put in a good show for you today. Government shutdown day 6 is where we stand. It seems like it'll never end at this point. It's the same thing every day. No matter what media site you choose to watch, that seems to be the only thing that they're talking about. A never-ending loop of the government shutdown. And I understand I'm doing a little bit of the same, but that's really all we have right now. That's kind of the biggest segment of news that I can deliver to you as different developments keep coming out and different legislators say something and it stirs the pot, right? But anyways, I dug a little more into this and a little more into just why the Democrats are wanting to pause the government, why they're wanting to stall the government, why they don't want to work, essentially. Right? And that is, as I have previously stated, it's hung up on the fact that they wanted to provide some sort of medical care privileges to those of non-U.S. citizens, illegal immigrants, right? But I dug a little more into that, and I wanted to know just what it was, or how much, rather, it was that they were making this big fuss about. And let me tell you this, it's a very big number. And let me also say this, you'll be very glad to know that the Republicans are putting their foot down on this. So if it takes the Republicans to put their foot down and be at this standoff, it's definitely worth it. Because as my research pulled up, this is over a $200 billion funding for this medical care that they're wanting to give out to non-U.S. citizens. They want to take from the U.S. budget, which we're already in debt, as you know, have been for a very long time. They want to take $200 billion and they want to give that to non-U.S. citizens. Again, illegal immigrants for their medical care. You know, I can't remember the last time that I went to a hospital and my bills were covered or my medical subsidies were taken care of under a $200 billion government bill. And that's where we stand right now. You know, I wanted to know more about what we were so hung up on. Not we, I guess, what the Democrats were so hung up on. And that's it. $200 billion we're talking. You know, that'd be real nice if the Democrats were thinking, you know what, let's put $200 billion into medical subsidies for, I don't know, maybe U.S. citizens. Maybe persons born in the U.S. Maybe we do that. I'm sure that would pass with flying colors. But anyways, this bill also has one more little thing in it regarding this whole medical subsidies to illegal immigrants. It would allow illegal immigrants to apply for Medicare. They would be receiving the same benefits as anyone else on Medicare. And you know what? They wouldn't be legally allowed to be here. That's the difference. So again, I wanted to go more into just why we're sitting at this 6-day government shutdown, which as of right now at 8 o'clock in the evening on October 6th, I'm sure it's going to roll into day 7. And I'm sure I'll be reporting on it once again because the Democrats don't want to budge. They voted again tonight. And can you guess what the vote was? You want to take a stab at guessing? Throw it in the comments if you can guess what it was. Pretty simple. 55 to 45. No budge whatsoever. None from the Democrats. They're standing in this tight union with each other. And I can only see it as a stand against President Trump. With all he's trying to do with ICE and, most deportations in the first year of a presidency. We're headed towards that if we aren't already there. This is their stand against it. They're going to take the government hostage, and I really like that wordage that many of our Republican legislators are using. Because they are. That's where we stand. The government is being taken hostage by Democratic legislators. I found it funny today watching a little news clip. I can't remember who was talking on it, but they said, call your Democratic legislators. Please. Tell them we only need 5 of them. We need to get to 60. We get to 60, the government is magically back open. We need 5 of you to get into your right mind and realize that once again, America is more important than illegal immigrants. Again, I say this every single show, reminding the Democrats, can we please put America first? How long do you want everybody to sit here and question your decision making, Democrats? How long? What's it going to take? I feel like I have to keep repeating myself because that's the situation we find ourselves in. You know? My stance is the same as every other Republican legislator. We're sitting here, we're waiting, we're twiddling our thumbs. Democrats, can we go back to work? All Republican legislators are saying the same thing. Waiting on you guys. Waiting on you guys to want to go back to work. But no, No, we're going to hold out over a absurd proposition. An absurd $200 billion bill. Again, I say this a lot, I'm speechless. I don't know what to do other than to sit here and twiddle my thumbs and wonder when Democrats will finally start thinking straight. But it's been this way for a while. And Democrats should have known that, first of all, this wasn't going to fly, obviously, because you want to provide it to illegal immigrants. But second of all, the big, kind of hill that Trump is dying on is, listen, we're trying to down this national debt. Our government spends way too much money, way too much, right? So that's what we've been trying to put forward since Inauguration Day. And I don't know really where Trump stands with Elon, but that was the whole point of Doge. I know Democrats took a problem with that too, because apparently they don't like saving money. But the whole kind of point of Doge was to save money where it was being wasted. I can't begin to remember how many reports I heard of just how much money we were giving to pointless things. And this has been put forward since day one of Trump's second term. We've been trying to save money. We're not trying to spend $200 billion on non-U.S. citizens, illegal immigrants. We're trying to save. We're trying to right this ship. We're trying to make America great again. Not make America even more poor again. But that seems to be the way that Democrats want this to go down. And it's only going to get worse, as I stated in the intro. It's only going to get worse. The longer we don't have funding, the longer the government goes out of session, we're going to start seeing layoffs. As Trump has stated, like, listen, you guys want to keep doing this. This is the route that we're going down. I hope you guys understand that. This is where we stand. There's already thousands of people going without pay, federal employees going without pay. And we're only 6 days into this. You really want to see how far this trickles down? It'll start coming into our communities. Like I said in my first episode, your circuit court, your district court of your county is really going to start seeing the effects. They're running out of funding. They're not going to be able to pay their people. We're not going to have courts. And then I'd sit back and wonder, maybe this is what they want. There's been no say on this whole Portland thing from the Democrats. There's been no stance other than negative, other than against ICE in Portland, in Chicago. Actually the Chicago mayor just came out today and said he is zoning parts of Chicago and he's naming them as ICE-free zones. I don't know how that will work and how federal ICE agents are not going to be allowed to go into these zones, but per executive order from Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, apparently that's the route he wants to take. We're going to absolutely not allow ICE into certain sections of the city. Those sections most likely housing the most illegal immigrants. Just a guess from me. In good news, I guess it's not really good news, but some sort of a remedy, I guess you could see from Trump. He has now frozen $26 billion in funding to blue states. Now, those exact breakdowns and who's getting withheld what and how much, I don't exactly know, but $26 billion is being withheld from blue states. This is Trump's first attempt to put pressure on the Democrats, as obviously someone needs to put pressure on them. We can't keep this shutdown going. It will ruin our economy. Our economy that has been trying to climb itself out of the hole that Biden put it in throughout the 4 years that he was in office, if he even was in office. Sorry, little joke there I had to. Our next topic of conversation that I wanted to shed some light on. Trump is still waiting on the courts to be able to send the National Guard into these protests. I'm going to call them riots. That's what they look like. People are getting assaulted every single day. They're throwing things at these federal buildings. And I know I'm repeating myself from last episode, but it's getting worse. It worsens by the day. So Trump is fighting with these courts. Please let me send the National Guard in. Look what it did in Washington, D.C. Crime rates have plummeted. But no, the Democrats don't think that that's the good idea. And this whole presidential power thing, the executive branch holding power over the states, that can be a kind of a murky topic. The law is not exactly clear, and that's what Trump's trying to fight on. But let me put it to you this way. Let me take you back to the Biden administration. From 2020 to 2024, and things really ramped up in 2022 and 2023 when we were seeing record numbers in the border crossing, issue, right? Record number of illegals crossing our borders every single day, and the Biden admin just kind of looked the other way, right? Remember this, it was the biggest thing that Trump ran on. Listen, we need to lock our country down, and we need to get these illegal immigrants out of our country because they came here, once again, illegally, right? That's why Trump won the election in a landslide. And Democrats are surprised, but that's why he's sitting there right now. But remember, in that little time period when these illegals were coming across the border under Biden's watch, do you remember the story from down in Texas? Republican Governor Abbott set up his own fence line, right? Along thousands of miles of Texas border. That borders Mexico, obviously. To try and slow down this record-breaking illegal immigration surge, right? And many people applauded him. Trump went and visited it. He went and visited Governor Abbott to check this out. Thank you. At least someone's doing some pushback. But do you remember when Biden came on and just completely undermined Governor Abbott? There was actually video of his administration coming in there and taking this fence line, pushing it out with bulldozers. Saying, yeah, hey, nope, this is what we want. Shovel them in here. Get them in. You're not going to stop them from coming in. And this is another point of, so at that time, the executive branch had more power than the state, right? And in a sense, overreaching. So he was allowing illegals to come in on the Texas borderline and not letting the states do anything about it. Nothing they could do. They just had to sit there and watch, in a sense. But now, let's bring it back to today, where we stand today, right? Trump is fighting with the courts to be able to send the National Guard into these cities that are in absolute anarchy. And we see governors, liberal governors, the governor of Oregon, mayors, the mayor of Chicago, we see them saying, no, No, we're not going to allow you to do that, actually. I'm going to tie you up in the courts. That's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to let you overreach my state power. But when the Democrats want to do it from the executive branch, aka Biden, that's okay. That's all right. The Republicans, you don't get any say. As a Republican governor, you don't get any say about your state. We'll take this from here, in a sense. But no, now that the Republicans want to do it, now that us conservatives would like to see our cities cleaned up, nope. We're not going to allow you to do that, actually. The Democrats have never wanted to play fair. We saw that back in 2020, whatever you want to believe, but it's always been this way. And we as conservatives just have to sit here and take it. So anyways, a little update on the whole Portland, Oregon thing. There is currently a TRO in place, right? Temporary restraining order. That Trump can't send the National Guard into Portland until they come back and the TRO lifts and Trump can try and fight this again. Trump has tried every avenue. There's National Guard that has already been activated, already been allowed in California, right? So he said, hey, if they're already activated, can we bring them up? You know, at this point, he's pleading with the judge. What can we do? You see what's going on. You know, he's trying every avenue he can. And you know what the Democrats are doing? They're trying every avenue they can to block him. In my mind, the only thing that I can comprehend as to why the Democrats want to do this is it all leads back to Trump. The Democrats' hatred for Trump is so renowned throughout their own party that is the only thing they care about. I saw a very funny video of a, social media creator just kind of poking fun at it. He said, this is where we stand. If Trump came out tomorrow and he said, wow, I love oxygen and I love to breathe beautiful, beautiful oxygen. I love it. I wonder what the Democrats' next move would be regarding that. We saw what happened with Tylenol. He came out and said, hey, my health department is saying that Tylenol should not be used during pregnancy. Pretty obvious. Even Tylenol themselves came out and said, hey, we have never promoted the use of our product during pregnancy. Ever. So Trump was just reiterating that. He's saying we found that it spikes autism rates, right, for the child being born. What were the videos that you saw from the left regarding that? Because what I saw was hundreds of liberal pregnant women taking their stand and overdosing Tylenol and downing Tylenol as pregnant women. And you know where that stems back to? It's simply because they don't like Trump. That's why. It's been that way since he came down the escalator. That's the way it's been. It's just this strong hatred for Trump. And where has that developed from, you think? I'll take you back to the Charlie Kirk situation and where that stemmed from, because it all stems from the same thing. And what I'm talking about is liberal legislators pushing hate towards Trump. I said this in the first episode. I said it in the second. Calling the president a fascist, a threat to democracy. We saw it in the whole election cycle during 2024. They were pushing every narrative they could. Even the court system, they tried to get them, and they did, on felony charges. 37 separate ones. 37 separate felony charges for one little wrinkle that wasn't even illegal. The whole hush money case, right? And they keep pushing that narrative. And you wonder why hell is breaking loose on the left. You wonder why. But it soars right over their head, right? They're just following liberal legislators. You know, Democratic supporters are. They're just following what their top liberal legislators are saying. And what they're saying is conservatives are Nazis. Conservatives are a threat. Conservatives need to be taken out. And you wonder where the political violence comes from. Again, that's why we're the party of common sense. You know, because we see through all this. We see through all the bull crap in a sense, right? But anyways, a little more about how this breakdown of presidential power is going on. So the main law that's kind of presiding over this states that the president can only kind of overrule the states, you know, reach over them, and in this situation, send in the National Guard, is if there is a civil rights issue, which we haven't seen in years and years and years, or the executive branch believes there is an insurrection. And as in insurrection, I mean, in a sense, basically what we're seeing in Portland, Oregon, right? We're seeing a ICE facility be under constant attack from not only the liberals, but I guess Antifa is considered liberals too, but from Antifa as well. In my mind, in my eyes, that's an insurrection. You're trying to overthrow a federal institution. I don't know how it can be any more clear than that. Right? It just doesn't make sense. And again, we come back to the whole common sense thing. That's why we're the party of common sense. But that's the whole argument right now. That's why the TRO is in place. I believe it was, October 19th is when that lifts. And that's when we can see Trump take this back to the courts and I guess try a different avenue, try a different argument to try and get these liberal states to allow the National Guard to help them clean up. Because obviously they don't want it to be stopped. You don't want the National Guard in there. Let alone stories coming out that their own police departments are being told to hold back. Let ICE deal with it. Let the limited number of ICE agents in that town of Portland, let them deal with it. Portland police, no, we're going to stand on the sidelines and just watch this all break out. We're going to stand on the sidelines and just watch rocks be thrown through windows, explosives be thrown at federal buildings, guillotines for some reason put in the front, stop signs used as battering rams. No, that's not a Portland police issue. And again, you go back to, where does it all stem from? They just don't like it because Trump said it. It's the only reason. They don't like that because Trump wants to do it. And they just want to block everything that Trump wants. Why do you think he had so much trouble passing stuff in his first term? He didn't have the majority that we have now. And even when we have the majority like we do right now, we still can't get stuff passed because Democrats plant their little stake in the sand, and they set up camp, and they're ready to die on the hill of whatever point they want to make. And this point is they hate ICE so much that they would like to shut down the federal government. They want illegal immigrants here so bad that they're going to shut down the federal government. Right? So that's where we stand. There isn't too much to update on. We're just sitting at this same frustrating point in time. We're sitting here arguing about the same exact things every single day of this government shutdown. And the Democrats are coming out and saying nothing. Like I said, they're setting up shop. They're setting up camp. And that camp is government shutdown. That's what they want to be known for, apparently. So I hope if I have any sort of liberal viewers, any at all, I hope you remember what is going on, right? On October 6th. I hope you remember it. And remember that the Democrats are willing to shut down the government because they're not getting their way. They're willing to sit here, as of right now, what it looks like, they're willing to sit here and take all the time that they need. Like I said, they're going to die on that hill. No budge whatsoever. We've been sitting at their 45 votes this entire time. There hasn't even been, there's been a few that have shifted. Like I said, John Fetterman voted for. But they're all sitting collectively. They're the 45 of them. They're making a stand, right? And again, that stand is against Trump. That stand is simply against one man. And the power that that man holds is just crazy. The fact that you can have a whole caucus of liberals so scared of you that they just completely shut down their side of the government, They just completely stop everything. It's crazy to me. Did we stop it when there was record numbers of illegals? Did we shut down the government? No, we didn't. Because we knew at the time we had to take one for the team until 2024 came around. And we could clean up their mess, which is, again, what we're trying to do. But the liberals don't want to let us clean up their own mess. So anyways, that is kind of the majority of the show today. And I know it can probably kind of get annoying to sit here and talk about the same issues, but you know who I can blame for sitting here and talking about the same issues every single day? The liberals. We sit here time and time again, and I have nothing to report on other than Republicans twiddling their thumbs, waiting on Democrats to budge. Because what else are we going to do? We're trying. Trump's pulling funding. We're coming on the air every day, please. We need the government to continue. Layoffs are going to start happening. People are not being paid. But again, why should the Democrats think any different? Obviously, it's been this way. The Democrats don't want to put America first. And it's sad. It's really, really sad that that's the forefront of the Democratic Party at this moment in time. We don't want to put American first. We don't want to put American citizens first. And we hate conservatives so much that, one, we're going to continue to spread this hate. And we're going to say nasty things to them throughout mainstream media, which pushes extremists to do terrible things. Oh, yeah, and then on top of that, we're just going to do a little standoff and shut down the government and make you look bad. Never will understand it. But how I end every single show, and I think now, more than ever, You always should be, but now when we're sitting here in a government shutdown, be proud. Be proud to be a conservative. I can't say it enough. And I'm going to continue to say it every single show that I do. Be proud to be a conservative. Be proud to be part of the GOP. In whatever lengths that you go to be a part of it. You know, if you go out and you vote, whether that's midterms or presidential elections, and you vote red, be proud of that. I know I was. My first time ever voting. Sadly, I had to do it by mail-in ballot. I was away at college. If I would have known there was going to be so much trouble in 2020 with the mail-in ballot, I would have drove 6 hours back to my home to submit my ballot, right? But be proud. Be proud to be the conservative who you are. Going back to my experience, I remember how proud I was in the struggles that we were going through in 2020 with COVID. I was in college, and COVID absolutely killed college, sitting there on Zooms all day, right? I remember how proud I was to put my ballot into the mail. First ever election I ever voted in. Because I was able to, you know, as far as one vote can go, I was proud to put my Republican ballot into the mail. I was proud to do that. And you know what? I was even more proud back in November 2024. I was even more proud to walk into my voting establishment, fill out my ballot. Didn't have to mail it in this time, luckily. Fill out my ballot and submit it as a Republican, voting for Donald Trump. That was a beautiful day for me. And I'll continue to stand by that. I will. Even with everything that's going on, I'll continue to stand by that. So don't be afraid. I know I say this every show, but it really can't be said enough. Luckily, you know, here in Michigan, we don't have too much going on regarding, you know, ICE protests and anarchy, riots, in a sense. We don't really have that here, you know, knock on wood, but thank you again for tuning in to another show of Red Wave USA. Again, I'm still fairly new at this regarding editing. Still fairly new at this whole sitting in front of a camera and talking about my political beliefs. So give me some patience. They're only going to get better. This is all practice, right? I'm only going to get better at doing this. So again, I can't thank you enough. I know we have a small viewership, but it means the world to me that people actually want to sit here and listen. You know, that means a lot to me. So conservatives, young, old, on the fence, stay proud, continue to be conservative, and have a great night.